today we're going to be talking about a very common predicament, which is when the client chooses the cheaper option over you. So frustrating, right? One of the most frustrating things. And I hear this all the time. If I had $1 for every time I heard this, man, oh man. And I actually just had a student this morning who had posted something asking for my help, saying, hey, I raised my prices recently. I booked some people at those new prices, which is amazing. But then 2 clients said that they went another direction even after they told her they wanted to book her. So it was like they told her, hey, we want to book you on the call. But then later on they said, actually, we're going to go with the other option because they're just cheaper. So she was like, Nate, should I lower my pricing at this point? Is this a telltale sign that my prices are too high? And again, I hear this a lot in the industry, even beyond this particular photographer. This question of how do I get people out of, how do I get out of this rut of people choosing me or comparing me or passing me up all because of price? And I think that's the dream. How can I make my pricing nearly irrelevant to the way that I run my business? And by the way, I say nearly because it's never fully irrelevant. Like it always plays some role for better or for worse. But what you can do is you can minimize the role that it plays. So anyway, let's talk about this first. Why is the client choosing the other photographer? Because of price. Okay. That's the big question. And I want you to, when that happens, I want you to ask yourself 4 questions. Okay. We're going to go through every single one of these 4 that I want you to ask yourself in this predicament. And to start off with number 1, I want to make an amendment to that question, the question of why is a client choosing another photographer because of price? Let's make an amendment. Let's take off the because of price part. Let's just ask this question to start off. Why is the client choosing the other photographer, period, or question mark? That is the real question. Not price. Price plays a role, but not as big as we all think. Truly not as big as we all think, and not as often. And so again, the first thing I want you to ask yourself when you're in this predicament of like, why are they going with the other client? Is it price? Blah, blah, blah. Let's just start with this. What if it wasn't price at all? Okay. What if it wasn't price at all? What if that just wasn't the reason that they're going with the other photographer? And I will tell you, this is the big question we are going to park on here today. So buckle up because this is truly something that I got to get through your skull. What if it wasn't about price? Okay. Let's flip the question, the initial question, which was, why is the client choosing the other photographer because of price? Let's flip it. Why is the client choosing the other photographer regardless of pricing, right? Because here's the deal. We have to ask this question. If we want to stop having people treat you based on price, then you got to stop focusing so much on it and relying so heavily on it, right? That's just what it comes down to. We got to take price out of the equation in order to make pricing in and of itself irrelevant to the success of our business, right? If we're always asking, what, is my price wrong? Is my price wrong? Do I have to lower my prices? Okay, then it's always going to be about price for you. Always. That's the only way you can reach your bookings goal, right? So if you do that, that's the only muscle you're ever going to have a strength in. That's the only muscle you're ever going to use and the only muscle that's going to be of service to you, right? Okay, so let me give you a metaphor to just drive this home. When you break a leg, what happens? Like they give you crutches, right? They put a cast in your leg and they send you home with crutches and then you crutch around. Or maybe they even send you home with like a wheelchair and you wheelchair around for a little bit. Eventually though, what do? Eventually, if you know anybody who's had their leg broken or you've had your leg broken, they put you in a walking boot after a certain amount of weeks with the cast, right? So question for you, why don't they just use crutches until the leg is fully healed, until day 1 you can walk and the leg is perfect? Why don't they use crutches all the way up until that time? They don't, because the body is forced, when you put a walking boot on it, a walking boot cast, your body is forced to figure out other ways to hold itself up when the crutch is not used. That is the healing process. That aids in the healing process. Okay? It forces you to not rely on the crutch. And so therefore, you have these muscles and the bone tissue and all these things that have to strengthen themselves in order for you to get from point A to point B. It's a beautiful part of the healing process, the way that God has made our bodies. Another metaphor, like, have you ever noticed some, not all, but some of the most attractive people that you've ever met have the most boring personalities that you've ever come across? And it's because oftentimes they can rely so heavily on their looks. And they don't have to be great personality people. They're just naturals at making people feel nice because they're nice to look at. But then it comes to their personality and yikes, there is not a whole lot there. And then a lot of times, conversely, a lot less attractive people often have to depend far heavier on things like communication skills, humor, kindness, smarts, etc. So it's like, hey, if I was talking to someone who is very attractive and they wanted to develop their personality, I'd be like, hey, if you don't just want to be a pretty face, stop depending on it so much, right? In the same way to you, if you don't just want to be a perfect price, if you don't just want to be, oh, I'm the reasonable price person or photographer, I'm the lowest price photographer. Okay, stop depending on that play so much. That's your only play. Stop depending on it. So that's why I say here, let's take price out of the equation. So mindset exercise for you. And please actually think about this. Like if you got to stop the episode and take a minute to think about it, do it. If I told you tomorrow, I want you to raise your prices by 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 more than you are currently charging, and you cannot bring them back down. If you want to book clients, that price or bust. Like you can't book anybody unless it's at that price. Can't bring them down. Figure it out. What would you do to get that higher price booked? Would you just say, well, no one will ever book me at that price, I just can't, and then you just give up business? Or would you say, okay, I got to figure out how to up my communication skills. I got to learn sales psychology and money psychology of selling at higher price points. I need to revamp my portfolio to look every single bit as worth that new price point. I have to create a very strong personal brand. I have to go ham with marketing and increase my demand, get people so interested in me that my phone is ringing off the hook. I have to take extra care to target those higher paying clients, not just anybody, but specifically the higher paying clients that would actually pay these new prices. I need to network with vendor peers who are already charging these prices. Like, I don't know what it is, but what would you do if you had to book those new prices? Just think about it. And so I want you to think like this when you raise your prices or when clients turn you down and they blame your prices because of that, or when you're feeling insecure about your prices, okay? I want you to think through this. Think through, what if it's not my prices though? Doubt it. Doubt that question. Or it's almost like you're doubting a doubt. You're doubting your prices. Doubt that doubt and say, what if it's not though? Okay? Because the first inclination, our gut response is like, it's got to be my prices. What if it's not? Right? And you know what? For a lot of people, it works to have the lowest price. It works in the sense that like having the lowest price or having the reasonablest price can sometimes get you booked. Okay? The question for you though is, do you want to live there? Do you want to park out there? Is that the crutch you want to walk with everywhere you go? Do you just want to be a pretty face? Right? That's what I'm saying here. Dirty little secret, photographers, half the time clients lie about why they don't choose you. You know, they're like, oh, the other photographer had a lower price and that's why we chose them. Yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not. Sometimes that's the case, but a lot of times I'll just be so for real with you because no one else is going to tell you this. They just don't want to tell you the real reason. Price is just the easiest reason to default back to, as they don't want to work with you, okay? They don't want to tell you that you seemed unsure of yourself on the phone call, that you had several typos on your guides and emails, that you showed up to the call with terrible lighting wearing sweats, that you didn't communicate well, that one of their friends had a bad experience with you, that your contract contradicted itself several times, that they just got weird vibes, right? Like no one's going to tell you any of that. But you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, "Hey, sorry, we went with another photographer, more in our price point." And then you spiral again and you lower your prices again because you believed every bit of what they said. Again, not realizing price was never the issue. They probably would have paid those prices gladly, but something else was off. And you're looking way over here when you should be looking here at something completely different than those prices. And so my question to you is, again, what if it's not your pricing? What if it's something else? And I'm willing to bet you that for 70% of cases, it is not price. It is something else. Truly, I believe that. Like, even if the client genuinely, like they genuinely think is about price, they're like, no, it was about price. I'm going to be so for real with you. Even then, that's not always the case, because many people pay figures way out of their expected budget because they had so much buy-in for that person that they wanted to work with so bad that they just said, screw it. We need this photographer. We're choosing them. I don't even care if it goes above budget. We'll find the money. We'll rearrange the budget, right? Like, that is what you want. That is the type of client you want to work with. That is the type of atmosphere and environment you want to create in your pricing, in the way that people work with you. So again, my challenge to you is, if I haven't said this enough, what if it's not price? I just want to drill this in your head so that you start asking yourself this. What if clients are passing you up and it has nothing to do with your price? Where would you look? Start there. Okay. First step to not making your brand all about lowest price or best price is to not make it about price at all. Stop making it about price. Get rid of the crutch. Stop depending on the pretty face. Okay. Okay. Question number 2 that I want you to ask yourself when this happens is, I want you to look at the client, not yourself. Ask yourself, who was this client? Who were they? Not what were my prices. Who were they? Were they the right client in the first place? Now, we get so emotionally invested when we get an inquiry. I get it. I've been there. But you got to ask yourself, you got to separate yourself from the emotions of it and say, rationally thinking, logically, were they the right client for me? Okay. Or let's go with this. What about, maybe they were the right client? What if there was just a couple bad apples? Like it should have worked, but it just didn't. And life just happens sometimes, right? And again, the reason I bring these type of questions up is because sometimes in these cases where someone goes with another client, it really has nothing to do with you. Like, you think it has everything to do with you, but sometimes it just doesn't. And you have to give yourself a little bit of grace in these situations and let life happen. Okay. Let mistakes happen. Let things be imperfect a little bit and not derail your entire strategy, your entire pricing psychology just because of a couple bad ones. Okay. So examples, and these are just examples from me to you, giving you some perspective on like what could happen behind the scenes that you just don't know. Okay. So example number 1, let's say the client inquired with you. Maybe they were an ideal client and they loved you. You did everything right. Okay. But let's just say they knew the other person better, the other photographer. I don't know, they went to church with that other photographer. They had a really close connection with that other photographer, and it was like a relational thing. I don't know. Maybe let's talk about another. Maybe you just caught them on a bad day. Okay. Maybe the whole day sucked, and sorry, but like you caught them on a bad day. And so now they associate with you with that bad day that they had. Nothing you did, just like they just had a sucky day and you were part of it. Like you just got them on a bad day. Okay. So it's not your fault. Maybe they got hit with a huge financial burden that they weren't anticipating. Maybe they got in a huge car accident. They didn't have a good insurance company working with them. Maybe their house flooded, pipes burst, furnace went out. I don't know. Maybe something big happened And they were like, we were anticipating spending all this on our photographer and now we just can't. Like life just happened, right? Here's another one. Maybe their vision shifted. Maybe one day they saw some random reel about how photography is stupid and they should actually spend their money on putting a down payment on a house. And they're like, oh, wow, let's actually not do this on photography. And then they go to each other and they're like, yeah, this is dumb. Let's actually, okay, I don't know. And they were so stoked about you first. And then later they're like, nope, our vision just shifted. And they're not going to tell you. They're just going to be like, oh, your price is out of our budget now. Right? Here's another one. Maybe their parents were going to pay or their grandparents were going to pay. And I don't know, maybe they pissed their parents off or they pissed their grandparents off or they did something wrong. And then their parents fell through and they're like, yeah, no, I'm out. I'm not paying for this anymore. You disrespected me or something. I don't know. Or maybe they have relational difficulties amongst themselves. Like maybe it's a couple and they just got in like a fight about one of them wanted you, the other one didn't. And so then to like compromise, they had to go with the third person. Maybe they couldn't agree. I don't know. The reason I'm giving you all these like hilarious situations is because, guys, these actually happen. Like these are real life situations where that just happens sometimes. And so that's why you can't take like one or two or three even and be like, oh, they didn't go with me. And so therefore my pricing is wrong. No, hold up. You know what I'm saying? It could be so many different things outside of your control. So you've got to leave a little bit of margin of error there. And that's also why I highly talk about demand, having a demand for your work, having enough people wanting to work with you so that you can sustain these bad apples or these fluke cases or these weird ones, right? No, in other cases, it is your responsibility. In many other cases, you do want to ask yourself, and I would say even more often than not, you want to say, how can I take fault for this? And not like in a shameful way, but in like a, how can I use this to learn and grow, right? Here's a question. Did you attract the wrong client? Got to ask that. So maybe it was not them. Maybe it was you. Did you attract the wrong kind of client? So your portfolio, does it look like the type of client you want to attract? The way you show up in person, on digital, the network that sends you referrals. Are they the right people that are sending you referrals? Are they not aligned with what you're trying to do? The word of mouth clients from the past few years, are those aligned? The free shoots that the free models that you work with, I don't know, the website you have, what it looks like, the way you speak, you talk with words like cheap and budget friendly and keeps costs low. Like if this is the language you're using, you're going to attract those type of budget shoppers, folks. Visuals that you post, inspiration that you post, Pinterest stuff that you post, tips you give, the peers you work with, etc. This all points to a price point that people are going to feel before they ever hear something come out of your mouth. It's felt, right? So it all needs to be aligned and congruent with what you are trying to attract. So when a cheap and budget-friendly client comes, I want you to ask yourself, how the heck did they get here? Right? That's what I want you to ask yourself. Be like, whoa, you're not even supposed to be here. How did you get through all my speed bumps that were supposed to get like scare someone like you off, right? And if you don't have those speed bumps, you should. Like I'll even down to having some price point on your website, your average prices, your starting prices, and then something I do, like if I'm coaching a student and they have a significant problem with like a lot of people coming to them saying, hey, I have a ton of people who are price shoppers. I don't know why, like my prices are way out of their budget. And I say, okay, well, maybe you need to put a little fine print text right above your inquiry form that says pricing, average prices starting at, or starting prices at, something like that. Just to give people the last minute, like, hey, if you're looking for a photographer in the $2,000 range, I want to just give you an FYI. Most people spend $5,000 to $6,000. That'll give them a little like, maybe I'm in the wrong spot. Maybe I don't want to send this inquiry. Okay. So all of this to say, sometimes it's not you, it's actually the client, which means, again, A, it might be out of your control, fluke cases, or B, you may have attracted the wrong type of person in the first place, which is in your control. Okay, so number 3 question I want you to ask you. And this one is going to be brief, but we've got to talk about price itself. Like, I'd be remiss if we didn't actually talk about what if it is your prices, right? So, admittedly, I'm going to spend the least amount of time here because everyone focuses on this one too much. Everyone defaults to, it's got to be my prices. Yeah. Okay. So, we're not going to talk about that too much because that's already where your mind goes anyway. But let's still talk about it a little bit. So, are your prices too high? But I'm also going to ask, are your prices too low? Here's where I'm going to direct you very briefly. Pricing is strategy. Pricing is positioning. If you don't know what those words mean, please look them up. It is not just a number. It is not just a paycheck. It is not just a bill. Your pricing is a position in the market that you are in. $5,000 says something about your business, your work, your credibility, your expertise, and the quality of you as an artist. $10,000 says something about all of those things as well. $2,000 says something about those things as well. On the flip side, the client who is looking for a $2,000 photographer, that says something about who they are, what they value. The client that looks for a $10,000 photographer, that is saying something about who that person is. Okay. So it is positioning. So, like, if you're trying to attract clients who want to spend 5,000 or 7,000 or 10,000 on photography, your prices should be at that price point. Okay. Like, I can't tell you how many times I see people who are like, yeah, I really want to book people at like this price point, and like, or not even that. Like, a lot of people will say, I want to book these types of weddings. And I'll be like, do you know how much those weddings cost? Do you know what type of photography they usually, and then they'll be like, no, I don't really. And I'm like, that right there is a $7,000 photographer. You're charging like 45. And so your clients, even if they would pay 7,000, they're like, oh, I don't want to pay 4.5 thousand. Like, that's too low. That sounds risky. So again, you got to have the prices that you're targeting, right? It sounds simple, but like, it actually isn't. It it almost feels like too obvious that we forget it. Warning though, you need to communicate that price point. If you're like, I want to hit $7,000 weddings and I'm going to set my prices there. That's great, but you need to communicate that price point in every part of your brand experience, expertise, portfolio, demand before you ever charge that, before they ever see it on paper. It just needs to be like oozing out of your brand. Okay. Or another example, if you are marketing to clients who are booking high end venues, but you're charging low end prices, doesn't match, incongruent, inconsistency. Pricing is so much about consistency and positioning in the market to be consistent with the people that you're working with. Okay. So it all must match, it all must line up, right? Another thing in pricing that I do want to talk about is that is it is an exchange of value. So what you are giving has to be far more than what you're charging. Like, the giving side of things must be obviously greater to the client than the charging side of things. So if you're wanting to charge 5,000, your value that you're giving them, they have to believe that it's more than 5,000, hopefully significantly more. Okay. If they look at what you're offering them and the whole suite of everything they're getting from working with you, from the deliverables, from the work you provide, all of that, and they see an average of like, this feels like a $3,000 experience, but you're charging 5,000, they will not buy. Trust, like, they won't buy. What they have to see is, we're getting like a $7,000 value, and this person is charging us 5. We're in. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they want to feel like. They want to feel like they are getting the larger end of the stick. Okay. That's huge. That's how you make the sale. So again, all of this is such a rough overview of what if it is price. Okay. If you want to learn more about how to calculate pricing super practically, I'm just going to straight up highly recommend that you join my Business Blueprint program, where I break all of this down. We're kind of talking a lot about the what here, but that's where we go in the depths of the how. I'll walk your hand through it all, give you a pricing calculator. We'll talk money mindset, psychology of selling, profit versus value versus price, kind of what I was talking about, how what you're giving needs to exceed what you're charging, all of that. Okay. But that's kind of all I'm going to touch on here. Because again, I think the question of is it my pricing is a little overemphasized. All right, last question. So I promised you 4 questions when this predicament happens, and this is my last one. Are you connecting people to you? That is the best way to eliminate price competition. You. Are you connecting people to you as a person, as a human? This is another thing that I talk about a lot. It's called personal branding. I won't stop talking about it because it's so dang important. The simplest example that I feel like I use all the time is the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. Why in the world were people willing to pay so much money out of their budgets for this Eras Tour concert tickets over any other concert experience? Like, I'm sorry, but there were so many people at that tour, I am certain, who had no business spending the amount of money they did on going to that tour. Okay. Why did they do it? Because of her, because of Taylor, because like pricing was irrelevant because Taylor has built such a strong personal brand that attaches the value of Taylor Swift TM to her, the human, right? Like, it's not just like a good song. Like, I'm sorry, but like, there's so many other good songs out there. But people connect with her stories, with her voice, with the way she makes people feel, with the way she looks, with her visuals, with all of it. Like her character arc, her all of it. The bracelets, whatever it is, right? Props to her for just like crushing the personal brand game. But that is a perfect example of why this is the way that it is. And now I'm going to give you a smaller example because some people hear that one and they're like, well, I'm not Taylor Swift. Like, I can't be Taylor Swift. Okay. So not everyone's Taylor Swift. I get that. But let's give you another example. When let's say it's Valentine's Day, because I'm recording this and it's like going to be Valentine's Day soon. And I just made a reservation. So you want to go to a restaurant. You want to take your significant other to a restaurant for Valentine's Day. Okay. You got 2 options of restaurant. One is a more expensive restaurant, higher end, but so you're going to drop more money. But everybody, when you go there, you know that everybody treats you so well. You actually know the owner. The owner always comes and sits by you guys and like talks you up a little bit. You know the wait staff. They've all just kind of become good friends of yours. It's just like a home away from home. Like, it's just cozy. It's just like, you know everybody, and it's just everybody knows you, and it's just like a nice. It just feels good. It just feels like a hug, right? It's like slam dunk every time you go. More expensive though. Second restaurant, but you don't know anybody. You're not promised anything. You've never been there before. You have no idea if the food is even good. You've got no referrals. It's just a total stab in the dark, brand new restaurant you've never tried before, but they're cheaper. Okay. So now you only got one Valentine's Day until next year. And if you get it wrong, your partner's going to not be happy with you. Okay. Where are you going to take your significant other for Valentine's Day? No redos. One Valentine's Day is all you got. You don't want to screw this up. Okay. You're going to take your significant other to the place that you know the people with, like the first restaurant, even though it's more expensive. That's personal branding. Okay. It's that nobody can be you. It's no one can give that personal experience like the person giving it and the person that you're attached to. You attach people to you, and your price point becomes less and less important because it's not about just pretty photos anymore. It's not just about, oh, well, they have like whatever camera gear or whatever. No, it's like they stop comparing you because you're in a category of one, which is just that you're you. They're like, we want to work with Julie Smith and we will have no other but Julie. Like, we love Julie for so many reasons and no one's going to be Julie. So we're going to do Julie. I don't care what she costs. Okay? It is you versus the other person on the game of who can be you the best. And you win that game every dang time. Okay? That is the power of personal branding. That is the power of taking the value, attaching it to yourself, and you make pricing irrelevant. Okay? That's all I got. 4 questions to ask yourself when clients pass you up for a lower price client. I'm just going to rip through these one more time. First, what if it's not price? What if it's not price? Look elsewhere. Don't just be a pretty face. Flex those other muscles in your business. Number 2, look at the client, not yourself. Was there something wrong with the client? Number 3, what if it is price? If it is price, let's address that. Number 4, are you actually connecting people to you? Do you have a strong personal brand built? That's how you eliminate price competition. Okay, guys, get out of that price competition trap. Telling you what, you don't want to live there. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. You guys are the best. Subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Share this with a friend if you found this helpful. Maybe they will too. And I appreciate it if you'd rate and review the podcast. But again, thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.